I just want a man that takes care of me, you know, like I really, really yearn for that. But then I don't want him to think that I'm being a gold digger and taking advantage of him. And it's like this weird, like, to belittle into a stay-at-home mom, right? Or a stay-at-home wife, or like whatever the case might be. How mean is that for women? And it's not even men that are doing it. It's women. It's woman on woman crime.
But that's why. That's honestly a big part of, I think, why I'm so down to take care of Sabrina and John's down to take care of you, is because like we know that if we're not around, you guys represent us well, and you can handle shit, and you speak intelligently, and you can represent our families well. And so it's like at the end of the day, I don't want a stay-at-home wife that also is just like worthless. Like. Right? Like, we want someone that can represent the family, and like, and if we're not around, they handle shit.
You weren't in that like super feminine space, because that's how I felt too. I'm like, I had, you know, good connections, but you know, I didn't have like really feminine women that had men that were taking care of stuff. And I didn't know how that changes you until I became that. But I love that you guys are first guests too, because we sit here and we talk about a lot of this stuff, and I'm sure a lot of people are like, or like they don't believe it. But you guys being here, like, you're also a testament to what we talk about all the time. And you both were in. And
I can speak to the fact that this isn't something that I've had dialed for my whole life. Like
well, that's what makes it so profound.
I was not living like this, right? Like I was living with, you know, the societal, you know, be careful with women. They, you know, watch out for gold diggers. Like, you know, these girls are just, you know, and so like society kind of pressed this, you know, don't do this. Don't
trust women.
Yeah, don't trust women. Don't, you know, you want someone who's going to contribute 50-50, all this shit. And so like I was accepting that as like, maybe that's the way things should be. And then as soon as I myself made that shift and was like, no, you know what? Like, let's try to show up in this like kind of new way of like, let me just be the masculine male. Let me handle shit. And then I got to see the changes, like even with her, like for a lot of the time we were dating, we weren't in this style
polarity.
Of role. Yeah, we didn't have the polarity, and we would be at each other's necks about different things. She was living in her masculine a lot more than she should have been. Or it was that emasculates me, makes me act like kind of a bitch. You know, I'm just being a bitch. And so,
or it was like kind of like we would like teeter-totter and tiptoe around things because, you know, in the beginning of our relationship, we weren't really like fully open and honest about like, and I mean, me personally, I wasn't like confident enough to be like, I want XYZ, right? And you had like this perception of like, well, I don't want a gold digger. And I was like, well, and I internally, I was like, I just want a man that takes care of me, you know? Like, I really, really yearn for that. But then I don't want him to think that I'm being a gold digger and taking advantage of him. And it's like this weird, like, But and he's like, like, I don't want to feel like taken advantage of, but like, anyways, once we like broke through that, and I mean, it takes some time, and like, and that's why it's great that we're talking about this, because like it should be an open, honest conversation with your partner of like what you expect from each other. But now that it's just like fully laid out on the table that like I love you wholeheartedly, and I want to be able to fulfill like my role as a woman within the home, like creating the warmth, the creativity, like, you know, in the next few years, having kids with you, like taking care of Reg, taking care of you, like all of that just gives me like the best ooey gooey feelings. And seeing you like strive to be the strongest man, it's amazing. But
it
I
changed
was like,
everything with our
but
relationship.
I felt weird like being like, can you take care of me? Can you like, pay for all the groceries and like pay for the mortgage and like and then like I'm and when we weren't like before the transition, like I would keep trying to work and like to like, okay, I'll cover these bills and I'll cover these bills.
But then she's like making way less money and she's stressed out all the time. And I'm like, wait, what are we doing here?
Because you can't really like ask for it, right? You can't really ask like, hey, can you pay the bills? Like a guy has to bring that to you. I guess a guy has to bring it, right? Because you were trying to do it by being like, okay, well, I'll do this.
I'll pay the Wi-Fi bill.
Right. I mean, I did that in the beginning too.
Or I think a woman, you know, has to have a standard, right? Obviously, like, you girls didn't know this because you didn't know that men, you know, weren't introduced to this, but women watching our show, you know, they can say, oh no, hey, when I go on a date, like the guy, like I need to have some standards. Like he needs to take care of me. He needs to pay for
100%.
things. He needs to, you know, how many times have I gotten by as a guy as like, oh yeah, we go out for a couple of drinks.
Yeah, that's
like,
how we
you know,
went
it's like,
on our first date.
But
I'm
like not letting a guy get away with that because you know what he's thinking when he's like, I'm like, okay, it's minimum investment in order to get laid. That's what I'm thinking.
Yeah, but I knew you weren't getting laid, so I was like, all right.
Yeah, I saw a nipple though, but
That's all you get.
Well, for us, it was, I mean, I was 21. It was 4 or 5 dates before we just kissed before I let anything happen.
That's
and
good.
those were overnight dates too.
Yeah.
I was like,
Great.
these are real fancy dates. So I was like, I like these dinner dates.
My dad's been
That's how
watching
you
the
catch him.
podcast, so he's gonna know I showed you a nipple on our first date.
well,
now.
yeah,
That's
I
great.
but yeah, but that's the thing is like having those standards for it, and it's funny because again, both men and women get flack from their peers about it because guys, they get called simps, right? That's the thing.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, you're a simp. You're a simp. Oh, you're providing for, you know, a woman. Like she's not paying the bill. You're paying for everything. Oh, you're a simp, right?
Yeah.
And then women get harassed by other women. It's like, oh, you're just.
you're
just
not
wanna
empowered.
stay
Right.
at home.
I know it's so shitty. Like, yeah, the stay at home, like to belittle into a stay at home mom, right, or a stay at home wife, or like whatever the case might be. How mean is that for women? And it's not even men that are doing it. It's women. It's
Right.
women on women crime that I'm seeing.
It's
Like,
jealousy,
Yeah, it's-
a lot of it.
Well, I
Because
think that's a lot of it, right? Because
Yeah.
if you don't have a man that's taking care of you in that way,
Right.
and you're out like, you know, grinding at work every day, and then someone else is like, oh yeah, my man takes care of me, and,
Right.
You know, like I'm
exactly.
all like happy and living in my feminine. Like another girl that doesn't have that available to her, I could see why she'd be upset about that.
Yeah.
Just
Yeah.
like
yeah.
from a jealous standpoint.
But it is a lot of tearing women down. I know sometimes
is
when
tearing
people are
women
like, what do you do? I'm like, don't ask me that question. I'm like, I don't mind saying it, but like you said, I don't know how someone's going to react to it,
Yeah.
you know? And
Which is weird because this is new, right? Like,
Right.
this is
Yeah.
the new age of things where you have to feel uncomfortable about that. If you
Right.
went back to like the, you know, 50s,
Or I
60s,
feel like we
that's
have
just
to,
the norm.
like, what's the word I'm looking for? Like, prove ourselves
Yeah.
before we became a stay-at-home, you know, wife
Yeah.
or mom. You know,
Right.
I'm like, I went to college. I have a degree. I could, you know, if I needed to do
I
something,
could run
I
shit if I need
could.
to. Yeah.
Right. And I've lived in that. And so I'm confident in that. And here I am now.
Yeah.
Well,
but
I think
that
that-
doesn't even matter.
But
Like,
that's why,
yeah.
that's honestly a
Yeah.
big part of, I think, why I'm so down to take care of Sabrina and John's down to take care of you is because, like, we know that if we're not around, you guys represent us well and you can handle shit.
Yeah.
And you speak intelligently and you can represent our families well. And so it's like, at the end of the day, I don't want a stay-at-home wife that also is just like worthless. Like,
Right.
right?
Like,
we want someone that can
dense.
represent the family and like,
Right.
and if we're not
Yeah.
around, they handle shit.
Yeah.
And also, like, managing a household is
Yes.
a job.
Oh, for sure.
It's
so
a
much.
full-time
Absolutely.
job. Like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
and
Especially the way we just like can tear through shit. You know, it's like,
I am grateful that you're not a messy person.
not the messiest, but
No,
it
you're
is.
not. You're not. But he
Yeah.
does like to leave his hats everywhere.
They all have their little things.
yeah.
We got to leave our things around.
Yeah,
It's
he
like-
just has hats everywhere. I'm like,
Mementos,
why do you
yeah.
have so many hats?
so you remember
We
me.
were showing you love. Yeah.
He's like, just a little sprinkle of me. But no, it is, to me, it sucks to see, you know, women being demonized for wanting this soft life
Mhm.
Yeah.
and for being made to feel smaller than what they are. When in reality, like, ladies, like, we're working smarter, not harder.
Right.
Mhm.
You know,
Yeah.
like,
Better than perfect, we stand.